So, the upcoming Rey-focused Star Wars film that's being directed by Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, as well as writer Stephen Knight. I've said this plenty of times, but they might as well call it Star Wars Episode 10 because it takes place 15 years after the events of The Rise of Skywalker, which was the last Star Wars movie back in 2019 that ended the entire sequel trilogy. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. So, we know that Sharmeen has been getting a lot of flack based on her terrible comments, not just about her view of Star Wars, but also what she has said before in the past, disconnected from Star Wars, where she did say outright on stage that her aim is to make men feel uncomfortable. This is a comment that has gone viral, that has been making the rounds around the entire world, that many people are already rejecting, and it's creating a very big fuss over at Lucasfilm. Now, what's interesting about Daisy Ridley, Sharmeen, and Kathleen Kennedy is that they all agree with each other about this movie and its direction. We know that Daisy Ridley had comments about the film that obviously was all about defending Sharmeen, was going against the fans that were actually pushing back against Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy's comments, and it only gets worse when it comes to Kathleen Kennedy's vision of the upcoming New Jedi Order film, or as many people like to call it, the Rey Star Wars movie. Now, what's interesting about all of this has a lot to do with Kathleen Kennedy and her nonsense view of the Star Wars fandom and how she's basically running into pathetic damage control at this point for both Disney and Lucasfilm in the worst way possible. Let's get into this, shall we? Now, specifically with the recent backlash rising from the upcoming Rey Star Wars film due to director Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy and her comments about the franchise, one major development has to do with Kathleen Kennedy and her response toward the backlash against the director by delivering the following. I believe it is an outstanding opportunity that we have here with Sharmeen, the direction, of course, that we both agreed on for this film that we knew going in was going to spark a minority of fans to become opposed to the idea, which wasn't surprising, but this is a serious problem that we are dealing with from common moviegoers, however, that are attempting to convince others that our direction is some kind of an agenda. And we don't do that at Lucasfilm. We are not about agenda or anything like that. We absolutely do not engage in any of that. What we do aim for with this Rey movie is to gravitate toward the modern female audience and new fans that aren't tight-locked to George's vision, so that we can expand our horizons. We are exploring a new Jedi Order. This is going to take place years after the events of Episode 9 that was concluded by JJ. I think the loud, opinionated side of this community is quite offensive to Sharmeen and what she is trying to establish with this large franchise that holds endless stories to tell. Sharmeen is one of the best directors that we have chosen in recent years, and she is without a doubt going to deliver a Star Wars story that we will be universally accepted by, both fans that are new and those that follow George's vision. I think we just have to get past the loud minority that only creates a toxicity in this community that for sure isn't healthy for anyone. I stand by Sharmeen's passion and how it is time for both a woman to create a Star Wars story and for a woman to lead in a galaxy far, far away without holding on to the past. This is our first new tale for Rey that won't have to rely on the Skywalker legacy nor its legacy characters, and it's going to be magical. I feel we live in an age where a group of fans in this community are just frightened of change and who stars in and creates these films, and we have no plans to stop with our push for change. Diversity and equality to us are very important movements for our films here at Lucasfilm, and the cast and crew that works on them, and it's going to be quite the evolution from what fans saw in 2019 when we ended things off with the sequels. Sharmeen will be one of our most successful directors yet, and for those that are frightened of her direction and her comments, I think really need to take a closer look at what she meant about the future of these films and where they need to go to help normalize the film industry. Now guys, before I get to the big conclusion about this when it comes to Kathleen Kennedy, let me just say one thing, is that she sounds like Bob Iger in a way, where she's saying that we're not about any form of an agenda at Lucasfilm, same thing that Bob Iger said about Disney, and how she is saying that there is a portion of the fan base or the community that is seemingly frightened about change. And when she says change, she is talking about a female director that has and clearly holds all these agendas to reshape Star Wars in the worst way possible, where it's no longer about a story or character development. It is all about pushing an ideology into a story. That's all it's really about. It's placing an ideology over a brand to just kind of push that out to the general public. That's really what it's about when it comes to Lucasfilm / Disney and all of the divisions over at the Disney company. So Kathleen Kennedy, once again, I mean, you know that she is one of the most, I guess you could say, universally rejected producers in history, given that we have had moments where Steven Spielberg, back in July, I believe it was, humiliated her on stage by snubbing her when it came to Indiana Jones 5. I mean, she's been through a lot of stuff that has really been, you know, creating this validity, if you will, that it's not a minority, it's a majority of fans that have walked away from this franchise that, in my opinion, has been dead for a long time. We already know that Rosario Dawson gave out really bad news for Ahsoka Season 2, something that we here already talked about months ago, that Season 2 would not be moving forward, and that there were no, of course, concrete plans for a Season 2 to begin with. But what's interesting about this further, she goes on to conclude, it's only a matter of time before I think those fans who are unwilling to accept change eventually will, with our upcoming slate of movies and TV shows that we will be announcing further later this year. Both Sharmeen and Daisy both agree with each other as well about the direction of this film, being the first one to be a female-centric one, and we did this with Ahsoka, and we can't wait to do this on the big screen. So again, Kathleen Kennedy is pointing the finger at fans, saying that they are a minority. Again, she's doing the same exact thing that she did with the sequels, the same exact thing that she did with the Star Wars Ahsoka series on Disney+, and let's not forget about what happened with the Book of Boba Fett. Everything is minority this, minority that. You know, we already know that pretty much all fans have walked away from this franchise. This is exactly why they have not greenlit a Boba Fett Season 2 and Ahsoka Season 2, let alone all the changes being made to the Star Wars movies, such as many of which getting announced and then cancelled. Let me be clear, guys. Don't be too shocked or surprised if this movie never even goes into production by the end of this year, and doesn't even arrive in theaters by 2026. I think that it once again will be another movie that's going to fall into limbo hell or production hell over at Lucasfilm, following a similar path to over 10 Star Wars movies that met the same exact fate. You know, there's no doubt about that. They went from having a focus of a May 2024 filming date window to now it's all up in the air. Sharmeen even kind of confirmed that. She's like, yeah, we look forward to working on this movie someday. It's like, okay, exactly when do you mean by that, right? This year, next year, what's going on, right? So overall, I would like to hear your overall comments on this below, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.